Okay, so get this right. The Supreme Court, they're about to hear this case, and it could, like, totally change the future of TikTok here in the U.S.
Yeah, and what's crazy is the timing of it all. This isn't just about like some popular app. It's this huge legal battle, and it's all happening right as we're switching presidents. You've got President Biden, he's defending this law, but then you've got President-elect Trump saying, hold up, let's delay things.
Hmm.
And millions of TikTok users, they're stuck in the middle of it all.
It's wild, right? Like a political thriller or something, but it's actually happening. And the stakes, they couldn't be higher. I mean, this case could set the rules for how the U.S. government, how they regulate all these online platforms, like, forever.
Right. This could impact all the apps and websites you use every single day.
Exactly.
So for this deep dive, we're looking at this recent report from CBS News.
Okay.
It takes us like right into the heart of this legal battle.
So, okay, for those of us who haven't been following every twist and turn, what does this law actually say?
Right. So the law basically says that TikTok has to be sold.
Sold.
Yeah, sold by its Chinese parent company, ByteDance.
Okay.
And the Biden administration, they're saying this has to happen for national security reasons.
Okay, yeah, I've heard that.
They're claiming that the Chinese government could potentially get access to all of our user data through ByteDance or even like manipulate what we see, the content, to spread propaganda.
So they're saying it's, like, what do they call it, a grave threat?
Yeah, a grave threat to national security.
National security. But TikTok, they're not just taking this lying down, are they? They're fighting back.
Oh, absolutely. They're pushing back hard.
What are they saying?
Well, their main argument is that there's no evidence. Like, they say, show us the proof. Where's the proof that China is actually doing any of this?
Right.
They're saying this law is basically based on what ifs, hypothetical risks, not anything concrete.
So it's this big clash, right? You've got national security on one side, and then you've got the possibility of, like, the government overreaching, getting too involved in stuff they shouldn't. It feels like this classic dilemma, especially in the digital age.
Definitely, yeah. It's tricky. But how does the Supreme Court fit into all of this?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Well, this is where it gets even more intense. The Supreme Court, they're going to hear arguments from, like, every side. The Biden administration, they'll be defending the law, TikTok and ByteDance. They'll obviously be fighting against it. And then, and get this, even content creators, just everyday users like you and me, they're arguing that they have a right to use TikTok.
You know, it's like everyone is getting involved.
Yeah, it's a total showdown.
And then, right in the middle of it all, President-elect Trump comes in and throws this curveball, asking the Supreme Court to just, like, wait.
Yeah, delay.
A delay, yeah. It's so weird, right? I mean, this is the same guy who wanted to ban TikTok when he was president. And I was like, no, hold on. Let's slow down. What's going on there?
Honestly, it's pretty unusual. It has a lot of people scratching their heads, trying to figure out what his motives are here. What does he want to happen?
Right. Like, is he trying to turn back time to when he had more control over everything?
Maybe.
But no matter what he's thinking, the clock is ticking. We could get a decision from the Supreme Court any day now.
Yeah, any day. And let me tell you, the impact could be huge. I mean, there are so many different ways this could go. The court could decide to uphold the law, and that could potentially lead to a shutdown of TikTok here in the U.S., or they could strike the whole thing down, and TikTok just keeps going like nothing happened. And then there's the wild card. They could agree with Trump and delay everything. That would give him time to do what he called negotiate a political resolution.
Okay, so let's imagine the court sides with Biden and upholds the law. What would that shutdown actually look like for the 170 million Americans who use TikTok? Would it just disappear from their phones?
Well, it wouldn't be like an instant blackout, like you flip a switch and it's gone. People who already have TikTok on their phones, they're not going to wake up one morning and find it's vanished. But they wouldn't get any more updates, you know?
Oh, right.
And new users, they wouldn't be able to download it at all.
It would be like a slow death.
Yeah, basically. TikTok would become this, like, frozen in time platform.
Right, and it would slowly become less and less relevant as people move on to newer, shinier things.
Exactly.
But even if it's a slow fade, the impact is still massive, right? I mean, think about all those creators, the people who make a living from TikTok. They'd lose their platform, their way to reach their audience, their income.
It'd be devastating for a lot of people.
Yeah. And what about the whole social media landscape? How would that change? Would we see other apps rushing in to fill that TikTok-shaped hole? Or would user behavior change in ways we can't even predict?
It's a huge question mark. It really is. And it's not just a U.S. thing either.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
This could have a ripple effect all over the world, right?
Absolutely. If the U.S. takes this hard line on TikTok, other countries might start looking at it differently. Maybe they'll think, hey, maybe we should be doing something similar.
So the stakes are incredibly high. It's not just about TikTok. This is about the future of all online platforms and that balance between national security and free speech. It's like this case is highlighting some of the biggest issues of our time.
It really is. And while we wait to see what the Supreme Court decides, let's dig into some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, some details that add a whole other level of intrigue to this already crazy situation.
Oh, yeah, I'm all ears. Let's hear it.
So first, you've got President-elect Trump's, changing his mind on TikTok. It's really weird. And legal experts, they're saying it's super unusual for a president-elect to get involved in a Supreme Court case like this.
Right, and you have to wonder, is this all connected to the fact that he was a big TikTok user? I mean, he had millions of followers. He even met with the CEO of TikTok at one point. It makes you think, is he letting his personal feelings about the app influence how he's dealing with this whole situation?
It's definitely possible.
It adds a whole other layer to things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then there's the timing of it all. This Supreme Court hearing, it's happening just days before the law is supposed to take effect. And right as a new president is about to step in, it's like everything is happening at once.
Yeah, it's like a pressure cooker.
And the thing is, even if the court upholds the law, the new administration, they could decide to enforce it in a completely different way. We've seen that happen before, right?
Yeah.
Different presidents interpret laws differently. So even if we get a clear decision from the court, this whole political battle, it could drag on for a long time.
Absolutely. This case shows how law, politics, and technology, they're all tangled up together now. It's impossible to separate them.
It's fascinating and a little bit scary, too, to think about all the different forces at play here. But before we jump ahead and start thinking about the long-term consequences, let's go back to the heart of this conflict, that clash between national security and free speech. It feels like that tension is at the core of so many debates about technology these days.
You're absolutely right. And that's exactly what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive. When you think about this whole debate, it's interesting to think about it in the context of the internet itself. It's not just a U.S. problem.
Right.
I mean, the internet, it doesn't have borders, really. It's global. And that just creates all these complications when you try to regulate something like TikTok, especially when the company's based in a country, with a totally different political system.
It's almost like you're trying to force a square peg into a round hole or something, right? The internet, it was designed to be open,
Yeah.
Decentralized. Information flows freely. But as we're seeing with TikTok, that freedom, it comes with vulnerabilities, especially when you start talking about national security.
That's the argument, right? The Biden administration, that they're saying, look, we can't just ignore this.
Yeah.
The risk is there. The Chinese government, they could use TikTok to get user data.
Yeah.
Or to spread propaganda. But it's tough because, like we said, the critics are saying, hey, where's the proof?
Yeah. Show me the receipts.
Right, exactly.
So where do you even begin to find that balance? How do you protect national security without, totally stomping on free speech, on that open access? That was the whole point of the internet in the first place.
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
It's tricky. You need a nuanced approach. You have to weigh the good, the benefits against the bad, the risks of these online platforms.
And it's not just about what governments decide to do.
Right.
We all need to be having this discussion at home, in schools, everywhere. It's about the kind of online world we want to create. One that's secure, but also free. One that encourages innovation, but is still responsible.
Couldn't agree more. This isn't just happening in Congress or the Supreme Court. We all need to be informed. We need to be part of this conversation. The decisions being made now, they're going to shape the internet for all of us in the future. Think about it. What if the Supreme Court actually sides with the government on this one?
Yeah.
What if TikTok gets shut down here in the U.S.? What happens then? Do we all just jump to the next trendy app?
Yeah.
Or does this set some kind of precedent? Does it change how all platforms are regulated?
That's what keeps coming back to me. It's not just about TikTok.
Right.
This could have a huge impact on the whole tech industry.
Exactly. It makes you question, how much power should governments have over what we do online? What even is a national security threat in this digital age? And how do we protect free speech in a world where information, it just flows across borders?
We're having to really confront some fundamental questions about the very nature of the internet.
Right.
What is it supposed to be? What's its role in society? How do we use his power for good without, you know, ignoring the risks?
It's a lot to process.
Yeah.
But don't feel powerless. I mean, it can feel overwhelming. Like, how can I influence something as big as government policy?
Right.
But every voice matters. Stay informed about what's going on. Don't just read the headlines. Dig deeper. Read articles from different sources. Be critical. Question things.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to challenge assumptions, to ask questions. This digital world, it's changing all the time, so we have to be flexible, willing to learn new things.
I love that. And then, talk to people about it. Talk to your friends, your family. Get involved in discussions online. Contact your representatives. Tell them what you think.
And we can support those organizations that are fighting for a better internet, you
Yeah.
know, the ones pushing for more openness, more security, more equality online. There are tons of groups out there doing amazing work. They need our help.
It really is a team effort. We all have a part to play in shaping the internet, whether it's the choices we make every day or, joining together to advocate for change.
So before we move on, let's go back to something we talked about earlier. President-elect Trump and his role in all of this. It's hard to ignore, right?
Yeah, it definitely adds another twist.
It's so strange. He was all for banning TikTok before, and now he's the one saying, hold up, let's wait. And legal experts, they're like, this is really weird. It's not normal for a president-elect to jump into a Supreme Court case like this.
Exactly. It raises so many questions. What is he trying to do? Is this some political game? Or does he really think he can negotiate a better outcome somehow?
It's like watching some reality TV show, you know?
Right.
You've got the Supreme Court, the Biden administration, TikTok, and then President-elect Trump all tangled up in this drama.
And let's not forget, there are millions of TikTok users and creators right in the middle of this.
That's right.
Their jobs, their creative outlets, their communities, it's all at stake.
Yeah.
This isn't just some legal battle, it's a human story with real consequences.
Yeah, that's a really important point. It's easy to get lost in all the legal arguments and the politics, but this is about people.
Absolutely.
Their right to connect with each other, to express themselves, to build communities online.
It's what makes this case so fascinating. It reminds us that technology, it's not just about algorithms and data.
Right.
It's about how we use it to connect with each other, to tell our stories, to make sense of the world.
Okay, so we've talked about national security, free speech, all the political drama, the human impact. But there's another layer we haven't really gotten into yet.
Yeah.
What about the economic consequences? If TikTok gets shut down here, what happens to those creators who rely on it for their income? What about the businesses advertising on TikTok? And what are the impact on the wider tech industry?
That's a huge part of this for sure. Policymakers, they need to take this seriously. A shutdown, it would have consequences throughout the economy.
Right.
You'd have creators losing their platform, businesses scrambling to find new ways to reach younger audiences, and the whole tech industry would be on edge, wondering what's next, what are the rules?
It's not just one app. It's a whole ecosystem that could be disrupted.
Yeah, and we can't forget the impact on social media itself. TikTok, it's really changed how we consume content online. Those short videos, the creative tools, the way it makes things go viral, what happens to all that if it's gone?
Right. Do other platforms try to copy it? Or would we see something totally new emerge?
It's an interesting question. TikTok definitely created its own space in the social media world.
Yeah,
And if it went away, you'd feel it.
for sure.
Other platforms, maybe they try to fill that gap. Like we've already seen Instagram and YouTube, they're adding features, trying to capture that TikTok vibe. But would it be enough?
Right, would it be the same?
Sometimes the best innovation, it comes from limitations. Maybe if TikTok goes away, that'll spark the creation of some amazing new platforms or types of content we can't even imagine yet.
Whoa, yeah, that's a cool thought. It's
Yeah.
like if TikTok disappears, something else will have to take its place.
Nature abhors a vacuum, right?
Exactly. But would it be better? Would it be just as creative? Would it help us connect the same way?
Good question. And it brings us back to that core challenge, finding that sweet spot. How do we build a digital world that lets people create, that lets them express themselves, but also deals with the very real concerns about security and responsibility?
It's a tough balance, and this whole case, it's making us face it head on. So as we wait for the Supreme Court to make a decision, it's important to remember we're not just watching this happen.
Right.
We're all a part of shaping the future of the internet. The apps we use, the content we choose, the conversations we have, it all adds up.
Every little bit matters.
Yeah.
And those choices, they're not just about which videos we watch or which filters we like. It's about, The values we care about, the conversations we're willing to have, the things we do to create a digital world that reflects what we want to see.
That's a great way to put it. And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, it's a perfect time to think about what all of this means for you. So we've talked about a lot, right? The law itself, what's happening at the Supreme Court, all the different ways this could end, and even President-elect Trump getting involved. Plus, what this all means for the tech world, the economy, creators. But now, let's bring it back to you. Why should you even care what happens to TikTok?
Well, think of it this way. This whole case, it's like a giant spotlight on some of the toughest problems of like the digital age. We're talking online privacy, security, free speech,
Sure.
how much power the government should have over the internet. These aren't just abstract ideas. They directly affect how you experience the internet every single day.
Yeah, it's easy to get lost in the headlines, the drama of it all. But this is bigger than one app. It's about the kind of internet we want to have. Do we want a future where the government can just, decide what we can see online, what we can access? Could they censor stuff, shut down whole platforms? It's kind of scary to think about.
It is a little scary, yeah. But on the other hand, how do we balance that freedom with, the need for security? What about protecting our data, making sure we're not being manipulated by misinformation? It's tough. There are no easy answers.
Definitely not. But we got to start asking these questions.
Yeah.
In this case, it shows us that we can't just sit back and, passively consume technology.
Yeah.
We got to be informed. We got to be engaged. What can we actually do to have a say in all of this?
I know it can feel overwhelming, but remember, the internet, it was built on this idea of individual power. So start by getting informed. Don't just skim the headlines. Dig deeper, read different sources, be critical of what you're reading,
Exactly. Don't just take things at face value. Ask questions. The internet is constantly changing. We got to be flexible, always learning.
Yes. And once you feel like you've got a handle on the issues, talk about it. Talk to your family, your friends. Have those discussions online. Reach out to your elected officials. Tell them what you think.
And support those organizations out there fighting for a better internet. There are so many groups working to make it more open, more secure, more fair for everyone. They need our help.
It takes all of us. Whether it's the little things we do every day or coming together to advocate for change, we all have a part to play in shaping what the internet becomes.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with this thought. Imagine your favorite app, the one you use all the time for news, for connecting with people, whatever. Imagine it was suddenly in danger of disappearing. What would you do? Would you fight for it? Would you just find something else? Would you even care?
This case, as crazy as it is, shows us that our online lives, they're not as safe and stable as we might think. The apps we use, the information we see, the people we connect with online, it can all be disrupted. It can even just vanish. It's a little unsettling, yeah, but it's also a call to action. Be mindful, be intentional, be active in shaping your own digital experience.
Stay informed, stay engaged, stay curious. The future of the internet, it really is in our hands.